to re-sign Angel Gomes as a free agent signing next summer. INEOS and the Glazers now reportedly plan to knock down Old Trafford, with all of the potential plans to keep the stadium for the youth and women's team apparently being thrown out of the door. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please make sure to smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 500 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching, please also subscribe to the channel. Currently, only 50% of people who watch our videos are subscribed. If you want to keep up to date with all of your latest Man United news and talk, I'm live every day at 8:30 and 6. Make sure you get involved. It's completely free. Hit that subscribe, like the video now. Right, let's start the show off with talking about the stadium, because I think this is probably one of the biggest talking points of the last 24 hours. And I want to start the show off by asking you a question. I try and make my shows interactive. I try and listen to the fans. I like to see what other Man United fans are thinking and feeling. I want to know, what should Manchester United or the Glazers, INEOS, whatever you want to call it, what should we do with Old Trafford? Obviously, we know that a new stadium is apparently coming. We know that, obviously, the land around Old Trafford is where the new stadium will be, because Man United own all of the land around Old Trafford. But what do you want to happen with Old Trafford? Okay, it looks like they're not going to redevelop Old Trafford. It looks like they're not going to keep Old Trafford in the sense of as the main stadium. It looks like their plan is to build this brand new state-of-the-art stadium, which I have no problem with whatsoever. I think that sounds like a great idea. But what should they do with Old Trafford? I want you to get in the comment section right now and let me know your thoughts. All the people who are going to say, keep Old Trafford, don't build a new stadium. It looks like they're going to build a new stadium, so we've gone past that point. The question I'm asking you is this. We have no option but to build the new stadium. That's what INEOS have effectively said. They're building the new stadium whether you like it or not. And the question I'm asking you is, what would you like to see happen to Old Trafford? Let me know in the comment section. And I'll bring you the news story here quickly first before I give you my opinion as well. So this is being widely reported today in the UK media, in the newspapers. And the headline is this, that Manchester United are now set to abandon plans to keep Old Trafford when they build their new state-of-the-art stadium. It says that INEOS and the Glazers have realised that scaling down Old Trafford to a capacity of around 30,000 to host the academy and women's fixtures will be too complex and unlikely to work. So it looks like they did originally plan on having the women's team and the youth team playing in Old Trafford. And as we've said before on the show, to scale it back, so maybe get rid of some of the higher tiers. So it would be a smaller stadium, like 30,000, kind of like what it was originally before they developed it, many, many years ago. And I love that idea because for a lot of people, including myself, there's a lot of history that's come out of Old Trafford. There's people who scatter their families' ashes and stuff at Old Trafford. It's a sacred place for people. People travel from all over the world. It's their lifelong ambition would be to get to Old Trafford to see a game of football. And I think it would be such a shame if Old Trafford was destroyed. So I'm not going to be too critical of the Glazers and INEOS on this particular topic just yet, because I want to be presented with the evidence of why they're saying it's too complex before I cast the judgment. But I'm initially looking at this situation thinking, I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong. I think it's a bad decision and it's something that I'm not behind. But I'm the type of person who's always quite pragmatic. I'm always quite, I'm pessimistic, but I will wait until the evidence is presented in front of me. So until I know exactly why they're not willing to do this, is it money? Is it because the structure's falling apart? I mean, there's so many things that we know are wrong with Old Trafford. So I need to be presented with the facts before I completely go off on one about INEOS and the Glazers. Because if it is just a case of they don't want to spend the money, then I'll be unhappy about that. Oh, I don't know why. Every time I come up in this room, I sneeze. It has just suddenly got kind of cold in the UK though. But anyway, there is your sneeze of the video. I know everybody waits for me to sneeze, and for the last week, I seem to have sneezed on every video in the morning. So there you go. You've got your sneeze. I hope you are all happy. But back to Old Trafford. As I said, I really, really do need to see the facts as to why it's too complex. Those are the words that have been used, that apparently it'll be too complex to do it and that it's unlikely to work. Now, why is that? Let me know, why is it? Why? That's the bit that I don't understand at this point, And for me personally, I think it's, if you put aside all of the sentimental reasons, I think it's stupid financially from the way I look at it, because people are always going to want to come to Old Trafford to do stadium tours. You could host music concerts there. You could host Euros matches. You could host international fixtures. We could literally monetize Old Trafford so much more than we are doing now. You could imagine bands playing at Old Trafford. You could imagine them doing do you know what I mean? You could do those types of events at Old Trafford if it still remained there, because it's such a known place. It's one of the most iconic football stadiums in the world, that just to rip it down and have nothing seems illogical to me, and it seems like a massive mistake. But if the INEOS if INEOS and the Glazers come out and say, it's going to cost us 5 billion to scale it down, and this is wrong with it, and we're going to have to completely redo all the structure and do this and do that, then maybe I would understand. But at the moment, I feel like they probably just don't want to spend the money on it. Obviously, they're going to spend, I think it's 3 billion on the new stadium. So maybe they're just like, oh, let's just focus on the new stadium. Let's destroy Old Trafford. What would they do with the land? That's the thing that I don't really understand. There's so many questions here. And I think this is probably going to be a very unpopular decision for 99% of the fans. I can't imagine many of the fans would be happy with Old Trafford just being ripped down and turned into rubble, because it is such a special place with so many memories. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about this, to be honest. I could see some people in the chat saying, it's maybe a little bit unfair that this has been targeted at INEOS. But at the end of the day, INEOS knew who they were getting into bed with. They knew that the Glazers had let the stadium rot for the last decade or 15 years, whatever, right? And they knew that by getting into bed with the Glazers, they were going to be the face of this project. So I know obviously the Glazers are the one to blame, but INEOS are also going to be in the firing line, and they knew exactly what they were letting themselves in for when they decided to work with the Glazers, So we can't just be like, oh, it's the Glazers' fault. It's only the Glazers' fault, INEOS have a say in this as well. Yes, they weren't the ones responsible for letting it rot. I get that, but they still have a say on this massive decision as to whether they keep the stadium or not. But yeah, I'd be interested to say what people think about this. Al says they could turn it into apartments and restaurants. You know what? As much as I dislike your comment, that is probably the most realistic suggestion I could think of. Because I was thinking, what are they going to do with the land? That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense, to be fair. Imagine that, to say that I live on the land where Old Trafford used to be. I mean, it's a horrible thought. It really is a horrible thought, isn't it? But yeah, you probably are 100% right, mate, to be honest. You are. Let's do a poll. People are saying let's do a poll. Okay, why not? What would you prefer? We'll do this. What would you prefer? Rebuild Old Trafford. Brand new stadium. Alex says that Highbury got turned into flats. There you go. There you go. So you're probably right there. It is probably just gentrification, isn't it? It's destroy Old Trafford, probably build 1,000 tiny little box room new build flats, sell them for £200,000 a flat. I mean, if they do that, they'll probably pay for the stadium on its own. Maybe that's what their plan is. I mean, now that we actually sit down and we think about it and we properly discuss it, right? If they were to literally turn Old Trafford's site into flats, yeah, they would probably be able to pay for the stadium from the sale of all of those flats, because it's a huge site. You could probably build literally hundreds, if not thousands, of little, one bedroom flats stacked really, really high all around it, and say that you've got a view of the new Manchester United Stadium and all of this rubbish. So yeah, it probably is that. Daniel says it's not a matter of money. Old Trafford has history, and that is priceless. Loads of people in the chat are saying that Arsenal's old stadium was turned into flats. There you go then. Now we can see what their intentions are. So this is why this channel and these communities are great, because I came into this video quite open-minded. I'll give them a chance. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But now that these people in the chat have kind of shown me the light, they've shown me what their intentions really are, and they've given me examples of other teams like Arsenal who got rid of their old stadiums and turned it into to luxury apartments. So that's clearly what the Glazers and INEOS are thinking. They've probably done the figures and thought, right, we can destroy Old Trafford, get the demolition team in. That will probably cost them next to nothing. A couple of bulldozers, well, not a couple, a lot of bulldozers, go and destroy it, and then just turn it into luxury apartments. Imagine the marketing plan for those apartments to say that you live on the land of where Old Trafford was, you know? Like, that would put the price up massively just because of that. So, yeah. Ant says if they were careful with the demolition and retain the pitch, they could turn it into a park. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a cool idea. If they kept the pitch as a park. Alex says Gary Neville has already said that he wants Manchester United World near a new stadium. Fair enough. Somebody else says a hotel and a restaurant makes sense. Yeah, it'll be something like that, won't it? Yeah, I get it now. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I get it. They're looking at this purely from a financial perspective, and they're thinking that this is a prized bit of land, and they could turn it into luxury apartments, they could turn it into hotels, they could turn it into restaurants, they could turn it into all of these things, right? Which would generate hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, make sure you all get involved in the poll. What would you prefer? Do you want Old Trafford to be rebuilt, or would you want a brand new stadium? My opinion was this. I always wanted the brand new stadium because I think Old Trafford's too far gone, but I still wanted Old Trafford to remain. I didn't want it to be destroyed. I wanted it to be used for the women's team and the youth team. But yeah, someone said turn it into a parking lot. Oh my God. Imagine if that happens. Turning it into a parking lot. Oh. That would be horrible if Old Trafford was just a car park. Absolutely horrible. Alex says, I'd like it to be a big fan experience place, like a museum, then add hotels, shops, and flats. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's not... The thing is, right, it's not going to go down well with a lot of the fan base, I don't think, if they announce that they're going to turn it into luxury apartments that are going to be unaffordable for probably 99% of people who actually live in Manchester, you know? Like, they're going to be making apartments, luxury apartments, that are probably going to price out most of the local people, most likely, realistically, aren't they? You know, it's not like they're going to be building apartments that are going to be affordable for people, are they? It's going to be like luxury, really, really expensive, overpriced apartments because, you know, people will want to buy into it because it's Old Trafford, you know? Flying Dutchman says building a new stadium is a financial perspective. A bigger stadium will bring in more revenue to the club. Yeah, I agree with that 100%, mate. Like, if any of you here have ever tried to buy a ticket for Manchester United games, right? They go on sale. I think it's usually in like July or August, and they literally sell out within about 30 seconds. Every single home game sells out in 30 seconds. It's that quick. And every single year I buy tickets to go to Old Trafford. I'm going to the Tottenham game in a couple of weeks, going to the Everton game. I've got a couple of other tickets booked, right? And you sit in the queue like 3 hours before the tickets go on sale. This is just on the internet. And the other day, when I tried to book some, I think I was number like 150,000 in the queue. Like, that's mad, isn't it? The stadium's what? 80,000, and there was 150,000 people waiting in this virtual queue to buy tickets. And obviously that doesn't include season tickets either. That's just people buying tickets for one game. So like, we could easily sell 100,000 tickets every single game. Easy. Without a shadow of a doubt. Probably even more. Lots of people saying they'll turn it into a hotel. Somebody in the chat saying they should turn it into a ground for the youth team. Yeah, that's what a lot of people wanted, mate, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, yes. Nigel says Qatar had the same idea and it will bring jobs to the area. That's a fair point. I mean, that whole area of Manchester around there, like, it does need a lot of investment going into it. There is literally nothing there. I don't know how many people here have been to Old Trafford, but the area around it there's nothing there. There really isn't. When you compare it to like Wembley, or you compare it to like, you know, the other top stadiums in the UK that have like a whole kind of fan park around it where you can go and spend money, like, there is honestly nothing there. I think like the closest thing, there's hotel football, which is like there's not really much to talk about with that. There's like a KFC, which is like a chicken shop, and there's like a shop that sells like mattresses, and that's like genuinely about it. There's nothing else whatsoever. Somebody says, I reckon we can fill 120,000. Paul says, call it the Trafford Shopping Centre. There's already the Trafford Centre though, mate. There's already a shopping centre called the Trafford Centre. So I don't think they'd be able to do that. Maybe. I mean, probably not, though, because it's the same name as the other one. Just a quick one. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour and hit a like We're trying to hit 500 likes on this video. So if everyone could do that really quickly, I'd really appreciate it. And if this is your first time watching, please also subscribe. We're on the road to 40k. We're getting very, very close now. So yeah, anybody who's watching today who isn't subscribed, make sure you go and do that right now so we can get to 40,000. Hopefully by the end of September, we can get to 40,000. But yeah, keep getting your comments in about the stadium. I'm going to move on to the story about Angel Gomes then, shall we? Because the news this morning coming out is that apparently Manchester United are desperate to re-sign Angel Gomes as a new Manchester United player when his contract expires in June 2025. Now, the interesting thing with Angel Gomes is he will be a free agent. He's currently playing his football for Lille after joining back in 2021. He left Manchester United on a free. He was only 19 at the time. He was one of those players who everyone was really, really excited and hyped about, but he never really had the opportunity. I think it was under Jose or Oli. And there just wasn't really a path to the first team under Oli especially, I don't think. Even like Jadon Sancho was signed by Oli and he just didn't play. Oli had his favourites. It was McTominay, it was Fred, it was Maguire, it was Lindelof. It was those players every single game for Oli. He didn't really rotate. And I think, there was a good few years where we weren't really bringing people through from the youth team. It's only been now since Eric Ten Hag's really come in that you're seeing people like Ahmad, Garnacho, Mainu, Willy Campoala, Toby Collier. Like, all of these people are actually getting opportunities, which is amazing to see. But I think under the previous manager in Oli, I can see why a lot of the young youth players left, because there wasn't this conveyor belt to the first team. They were looking and thinking, I'm never going to get in the team ahead of McTominay or Fred, which I think is a pretty depressing prospect. If, these people like Angel Gomes would have been watching all of the first team games and would be sat there thinking, how am I not getting in the team when you've got Fred and McTominay putting in stinkers every week for the last, however many years under Oli? So yeah, I can understand why he left. But apparently Man United now want to re-sign him. Obviously, the good thing with this is it won't cost us any money because he's free. And the other thing as well is, because his contract expires in June, we can agree a pre-contract deal with him in January. So we could effectively kind of sign him in January for him to then move to Manchester United in the June. So that's really, really good. I would welcome him back. I think he's a quality player. I think, his season last year for Lille in the French league was very, very good. Obviously, he's now broken into the England team. He looked quality in those two friendlies. I think at the age of 24, he's definitely worth bringing back to Manchester United, a player who's come through the youth academy, a player who would really help with our homegrown quota. I thought he was born in Manchester, but apparently he isn't. I think he spent most of his life in Manchester, but he was actually born in London, which I only found out yesterday. But he has come through the Manchester United Youth Academy, so it doesn't really matter where you were born, does it? He's been at Manchester United since he was a boy, I think. So yeah, but yeah, let me know. Would you like to see Angel Gomes back at Manchester United? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Yeah, he's obviously playing quite regularly for Lille in the French league. Flying Dutchman says, can you remind me what position he plays? So Angel Gomes is predominantly a central attacking midfielder, but he can also play as a central midfielder and as a defensive midfielder. So he's quite versatile. I don't think he would suit as a defensive midfielder in the Premier League. I think he's maybe a little bit too small. But I think as a central midfielder or as an attacking midfielder, I think he'd be perfect just because he is quite small. He can kind of get around players quite well. He's very good on the ball. That's the only maybe consideration with him is his height. He is really small. He's only 5'5", which I don't know what the average is in the UK. Let's have a look. Average man height UK. The average height in the UK of a man is 5'10", and he's 5'5". So he's 5 inches smaller than what the average person in the UK is. The average man, anyway. So I don't know, about that much smaller. So, but I don't think that's a problem, to be honest, because there have been some, some really, really good small players over the years, and they're usually very technical. Yeah, so I don't think that's a massive problem, to be honest. I mean, some of the good examples of players who are quite small is you've got quite a few people who are 5'7", so people like Modric, Messi's obviously quite small, Santi Cazorla. There's a couple of others I had written down on my list to kind of bring into the show, but Maradona. Messi's 5'7". Maradona was only 5'5". there's others like Ronaldinho wasn't that tall. Like, so I don't think it's the biggest problem in the world. The point I'm making is I think he does need to be playing further up the pitch. I think if you put him as a central defensive midfielder, I think he'd be a little bit too small. But yeah, I would like to see him back. Fleck says he's not physical enough for the Premier League. I mean, neither is Eriksen. I don't think Bruno's very physical. Have you seen Bruno? Bruno's not got much muscle on him. He's not very strong, I don't think. The point I'm making is I think if you have him further up the pitch, the physicality is less of an important issue. But if you've got him obviously as like a CDM, he needs to be strong, he needs to be physical, he needs to be tall, and he's not really any of those things. So I think, as a more attacking player, like Ahmad's not strong, he's not tall, but he's been like probably our best player this season, and that's because he's playing slightly further up the pitch. And Amad Diallo, interestingly, let's have a little look. Amad Diallo is only 5'6", and Angel Gomes is 5'5". So they're kind of similar profile players. They're quite small, they're quite nimble, obviously very good on the ball, very silky. So yeah, like just because they're small doesn't mean they can't play in the Premier League. I just think he would be better suited further up the pitch in a more attacking area. Obviously, we know that Christian Eriksen's going to leave in the summer because his contract expires. And then, if we were to bring in Angel Gomes as a replacement for Christian Eriksen, I would be happy with that. That would mean your three attacking midfielders would be Bruno, Mason Mount, Angel Gomes, and obviously Joshua Zirkzee can play in the number 10 role as well. And I think then you look pretty stacked in that position. And obviously the great thing is it won't cost us any money because he's a free transfer. So yeah, I would do it, but I'd be interested to see what other people think on that one as well. Let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. Somebody saying that Bernardo Silva is small. Yeah, that's a fair point. James says Old Trafford is too cramped. There's no leg room. The bar catering area is so basic. Yeah, I agree, mate. It is. It's so far behind. Yeah, loads of people are saying that David Silva was also small. Yeah. Somebody's saying that he will never be ahead of Bruno and Mason Mount. How long's Bruno's contract here for? Is it 2 more years? Mason Mount's injured all the time, so I think he would be ahead of Mason Mount because Mason Mount's never available. And Bruno Fernandes has got 3 more years on his contract. So yeah, I hear you. I mean, it is a bit of a daunting prospect for someone like Angel Gomes to come back to Manchester United and then know that you'll be back up to Bruno because Bruno just doesn't get dropped. He's always available. So yeah, I do hear what you're saying. Flying Dutchman says that Bruno might be heading to Saudi next season. I've not heard that, but anything's possible. I imagine that the Saudi clubs will be trying to sign Bruno Fernandes, definitely. They tried to last summer, didn't they? Martin says Ahmad only has 3 months of contract left before he can sign for free with a foreign team. We need to sign a replacement now. Mate, he's got an option of an extra year. So don't worry. Honestly, it's fine. Amad Diallo, his contract expires in June next year. I understand the point you're making that if a player's contract expires in June, they can sign a pre-contract agreement in the January before, right? I understand your point. But if you look at his actual contract, type in Amad Diallo contract, right? He's got the option of 1 extra year. And that option is on Manchester United's side. So what Manchester United are going to do is they're going to extend his contract. I'm literally looking at it here. It says contract expires June the 30th, 2025. It says contract option for a further year. So what Manchester United are going to do is they're going to trigger the extra year, which will take him to June 2026. And then between now and June 2026, they'll put together an improved contract for him. That's what's been widely reported. So don't worry about it. He's not going to leave in 3 months. It's all good. It's all fine. Yeah, we're all sorted. And Amad Diallo clearly loves Manchester United. You can see that. He's been here for what? Is it 4 years now? And he's only just broken through into the team. Why would he now leave? Like, it doesn't really make any sense. And you can see that Erik ten Hag backs him. The only thing I will say is this, right? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Now this isn't if, this is hypothetical. If, say, Erik ten Hag was to get sacked, then a new manager might come in and might not like him. That's a possibility that we have to consider. So at the moment, he's playing. He's the first choice right winger. Erik ten Hag loves him. But obviously things could change. We don't know, do we, for a fact. But then on the other side, a new manager might come in and might say, you know what, he's the best winger I've ever seen. He's going to play every single game. I'm just saying that, like, just because he gets this option of the extra year doesn't mean that it's going to work out in the long run. We don't know for sure, do we? But yeah, don't worry about it. Amad Diallo's not going anywhere. He'll be here until June 2026 at the very earliest. So yeah. Lots of people are saying that Ahmad loves the club and that he wants to stay. Yeah, I would agree. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back at 6 p.m. for another live show. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed today's video, please make sure to drop a like before you leave. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a lovely day, everybody. I'll be back at 6 p.m. Bye for now.